Welcome back, focused learners. Today on The Explainer, we're unpacking a massive breakthrough in how we read our source material. We're talking about the Smith chart of the closed universe, and we're going to be looking at ancient scripture entirely through the lens of advanced electrical engineering. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so think about this for a second. What if the universe isn't just this sprawling, random physical expanse that we're passively floating through? What if instead it operates exactly like a highly precise, closed electrical circuit? And more importantly, what if that circuit is literally just waiting for you to complete it? The sources we're analyzing today propose exactly that. They describe the universe as a highly precise transmission line, and to really understand how this transmission line works, we have to completely reevaluate the manual.
So first things first, we've got to shatter a major preconception here. The source material we're looking at is emphatically not just some ancient historical text. As verses 16:24 and 25 point out, when critics call it Tales of the Ancients, it is absolutely not a dead artifact. Actually, our source analysis reveals it as an Eternal Memory Tesseract. It's a living, self-referencing topology. It's the sealed tongue of Muhammad, uttered first and preserved last. And remember this while you're reading. That is Allah's sentence, and your Rasul talking, and it is your amanat, your trust, right now. It's an active memory field that is quite literally reading you right now as you interface with it.
All right, part one, the physics of the soul and looking at the universe as a circuit. To really grasp this engineering metaphor, take a look at how our source describes a closed, self-referencing universe in verse 39:23. It operates exactly like a transmission line that requires three specific components for the flow of maximum power transfer. Number one, you have the source, which is Allah. Number two, the transmission line, which is the book. And number three, the matched load. And guess what? That's you, the reader. You are the crucial final step in all this. But, in electrical engineering, you can't just plug any random load into a high-voltage source.
Which brings us to impedance matching. This is the exact tuning of the load, again, the reader, to the source. See, in physics, if a receiver isn't perfectly matched to the transmission line, the power just doesn't transfer. Instead, it violently reflects back and causes destructive interference. So to receive the divine current without being totally destroyed by that reflection, the receiver has to be perfectly matched. And engineers actually map this matching network out on a highly specific geometric grid known as a Smith chart.
Moving on to part two, mapping the axes of Musa and Isa.
Now, what's really interesting here is that we are basically mapping the exact coordinates of the human soul on this topological grid to find our perfect balance point. Notice how these two orthogonal fields come together to form your complete impedance. First, the horizontal axis is physical resistance. This is the domain of Musa. We're talking the physical realm, the law, kinetic action, the body. But a circuit with only resistance? Well, it's incomplete. So we look at the vertical axis, which is spiritual reactance. This is the domain of Isa, the spiritual realm, grace, the unseen. Isa is the raised witness, the vertical axis that simply cannot be killed or crucified, exactly as detailed in verses 4157 and 158. He gives meaning to the horizontal. So together, this resistance and reactance form your soul's total impedance.
And we actually get to see exactly what happens when one of these axes is overloaded. Just look at verse 7:143. Musa asks to see the divine manifestation directly, but the mountain, which represents pure physical resistance, literally cannot hold the ultimate voltage of the divine current. It completely fails. The mountain is obliterated, crumbling to dust, and Musa is shocked unconscious. It shows us that the physical container alone, the horizontal axis, simply cannot handle the maximum voltage without being properly buffered.
Part 3. Total mismatch, focusing on Iblis and Farah.
So what exactly happens when the system fails entirely? Well, out at the extreme outer limits of the Smith chart, we find total mismatch. On one extreme, you have the open circuit, which is Iblis. This is a state of infinite impedance. It's total reflection. Literally zero power enters the load. The source material in verse 1572 describes this as wandering blindly in intoxication, just completely disconnected from the source. But then, on the exact opposite edge, you have the short circuit, and that's Pharaoh. This is zero impedance, where all that energy is destructively dissipated into a dead physical shell. He claimed absolute material authority, and verse 1092 shows us the grim result. His body is preserved as a frozen, lifeless, mummified sign. Zero resistance, just a total system blowout.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that both of these extremes lead to catastrophic failure. Think about it. Infinite resistance blocks all power from entering the load entirely. Zero resistance violently shorts the circuit into dead physical mass. In both of these states, the soul becomes trapped, right? It's either trapped in its own chaotic reflection or trapped in its own dead mass. As the reader, you have to carefully navigate past both of these extremes to survive. The closed universe actually demands that you traverse past the wandering blindness of Iblis and the dead mass of Pharaoh.
Which brings us to part 4, the match center and completing the circuit. Okay, so how do we avoid those highly dangerous extremes? We have to move directly into the exact center of the Smith chart. This right here is the point of perfect impedance matching, where the circuit is finally completed. And here's the ultimate solution to this whole cosmic engineering problem. Verse 1912 gives us the explicit command, "O Yahya, take this scripture with strength." And guys, this is not a metaphor. In this topological framework, it's the precise command that aligns the reader to become the perfect vessel. Gripping the book with strength is the exact impedance matching required to tune the receiver.
When you actually follow that command, look at what happens at the center of the chart. Your physical actions and your spiritual witness perfectly balance out. Maximum power safely transfers from the source to the load. And this perfect alignment creates what physicists call a standing wave. It's this beautiful phase reversal, where the reflected wave of mere human conjecture is completely inverted by the raising of the divine word. This standing wave is literally what sustains the closed universe. It's what allows you to walk the grid lines directly into the matched center.
To achieve this traversal, the source material is absolutely clear. You have got to deploy your intellect, your akal, as referenced in verse 10:10. You have the agency here. You have to wake up from the tagat. That means waking up from the false systems and the external destructive conjecture that constantly surround us. Verse 6:116 specifically warns against just blindly following the assumptions of the majority. By rejecting all that external noise and applying your sharp intellect to the book, you become the living vessel. You hold the key to becoming the perfectly matched load.
All of which leaves us with a final, unavoidable question. The math is fully laid out, the circuit is mapped, the transmission line is live. The closed universe requires a matched load to function, and the book is waiting right there in the center of the grid. So, when will you activate 1912?